Hey, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith of the nutritiondetective.com and the Love Your Liver live stream. And we're here today with a special guest who we'll get to in a second. But first, I just wanted to cover a couple of things that were going on. First of all, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is something new. I have a Substack now, drgarrettsmith.substack.com, and I've put up there's other articles, there's our old newsletters on there, but more importantly, I have done my response article series to a recent blog post of Grant Generous that I think are important that people know so that they can see the other side of things. So other than that, we have a very special guest today. We have Olivia of at Let's Live Healthy, both on it's LIV with no E, so Let's Live Healthy. And she's here because, well, she's a low vitamin A dieter, and she is a member of the Love Your Liver program, and she's got a degree in functional nutrition, and I thought it would be great to bring her on to have her talk about things. Hi, Olivia. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. And I also wanted to say, so I've been low vitamin A for a little over 2 years now. That's about when I came across your channel. And I remember when I first found your YouTube, I binge watched so many of your episodes because it was I finally was finding the answer to because I tried so many things and I could never figure out what was the missing thing. And so when I found out it might be vitamin A, it all made so much sense to me. And I never would have thought 2 years later I would be a guest on your show. So it's pretty cool to be here today. And I'm pretty excited about that. So thank you.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on having more people on because people want to hear from, successful people. And especially I thought it would be good to have you on since you were already in nutrition. You were learning about nutrition, then you found about this stuff, and now you're here and you have your own anecdotes, testimony to how it has worked for you and some members of your family. So let's get into that. So let's go into a little bit about your background, both your health journey background and your educational background and how you've come to where you are today, and what led you here.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll start by saying I am a practicing functional nutritionist. I've been practicing for about 3 years. I have a master's degree in functional nutrition, and currently I'm a PhD candidate for integrative and functional nutrition. So I've been in school for, it feels like forever. But yeah, so I also dabble a little bit in homeopathy. I know you also offer a little bit of homeopathic detox therapy, which I actually do some of that too. I took a course on that too. So I'm really fascinated in homeopathy. And so what led me to the low vitamin A was, well, it's going to be kind of a long story. So I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 17 years old. I probably had it for years before that because my period was very irregular. I was getting it twice a year. So I had all types of hormonal imbalances. And when I went to the doctor, they told me that I had cysts on my ovaries and I had very low progesterone and I was estrogen dominant. And they ended up telling me that it was very unlikely that I would ever conceive naturally just because I was rarely getting a period. So that meant I wasn't ovulating. And I was like, okay, well, how do we fix this problem? And of course, the solution was that they just wanted to put me on birth control to regulate my period. And I was like, well, I don't want a regular period. I want to fix what's causing all these issues. And even at 17, I knew that that wasn't going to help me and that was probably going to make things worse. So respectfully, I declined the birth control. And as I know now, I was very copper toxic and vitamin A toxic, and birth control would worsen that. And it's like a huge, so many like young girls are going through that same thing right now where they're having these painful periods and they're just getting put on birth control to fix it. And it's really sad because it's just making them much more toxic than they already were. So I really like to share that, so that if somebody at home has like a young daughter who's going through this, like, don't put them on birth control. And I also want to talk about my skin, because that's like my major issue. That started, I was diagnosed with a chronic skin condition when I was 12, actually, keratosis pilaris. And that's it's the funny one because that's the one that's caused by vitamin A deficiency.
Yeah.
So of course, I was told to eat more vitamin A and supplement vitamin A. I wasn't at 12 years old, I wasn't into all that. So luckily I didn't do that when I was that young. But they did prescribe me like topical steroids and things like that, which obviously isn't going to help me. So I lost faith in healthcare at a very young age. I knew that they weren't going to help me, and I had to kind of take matters into my own hands when I was literally like 18 years old, doing my own research. And sadly, I ended up doing plant-based because all the research said that red meat is so inflammatory. And so I was like, I need to lower inflammation. So I went full plant-based, and of course, that's going to make me super copper toxic and vitamin A toxic because I'm eating sweet potatoes every single day. And so plant-based, at first it helped me. At first my skin kind of started to get better, and I also had really bad brain fog and anxiety, fatigue. And over like a year of doing plant-based, all of those things improved at first, and then they were so much worse after like a year. My anxiety was so debilitating. Like I could barely talk to somebody without like, I was so flustered, and like my mind was racing all the time. I was like wired but tired, like that phrase from copper toxicity. And so I was at my wit's end. Like I didn't know what to do because I was already eating healthy. So I thought, and then I came across cod liver oil being the answer to every problem. So I was like, finally, like something, and I was like, this sounds wrong, like like oil from a cod's liver. That's kind of disgusting, but I guess somehow it's like a superfood. So I stayed plant-based, but then I started supplementing cod liver oil. And then within days of taking cod liver oil, my fingers started turning yellow. So it made me have jaundice within days of taking it. And I was like, this is so weird. Like I didn't know for sure that it was the cod liver oil. And like everyone else said it was so good for you. So I was like, I'm just going to keep trying. And then there was this one night I went to bed and I woke up with like, I thought I was having a heart attack. My chest was in so much pain. It was like my chest and my back and all the way down my arm. And I was freaking out. I literally thought I was going to die. So, and I was going to go to the hospital, but it passed. So I was like, okay, I think it's probably the cod liver oil. So I stopped taking cod liver oil, and within a day of stopping, my fingers went back to not being jaundiced anymore. So I was like, I know that it was cod liver oil, but like nobody would believe that. Like everyone kept saying like, no, like there's no way cod liver oil did that for you. Like it's so good for you. And so I was so confused, and I was being gaslit, like so gaslit by everyone. And then I ended up I actually did a course on functional nutrition before I enrolled in my master's program. And that course was really geared towards Weston A. Price Foundation, like all of that. So I got really into that stuff, like with the raw milk. And again, they were promoting the cod liver oil. And I was like, maybe I'll try it again, but like it doesn't seem like I know it didn't do good things for me before. So I was very hesitant about it. And I started with the raw milk at first. And raw milk would give me migraines, and I couldn't tolerate it. And everyone, and I was in like all these Facebook groups of like Weston A. Price people, and they just kept saying, just keep trying, like it's so good for your gut, like as your gut heals you'll be able to tolerate it. And so I was so confused because all these things were making me feel horrible, but I was just being told, keep taking them, keep doing it, they're so good for you. And I was so lost. And then I found carnivore, the carnivore diet. So I was like, okay, well, this is like the exact opposite of plant-based, and plant-based like wrecked me. So maybe this will fix everything. And at first it did help me a lot. Like my energy got so much better. And I think it's because finally I was eating meat. Like my body needed meat really bad. And I was finally getting like zinc and things like that. So I did carnivore for about 10 months before my skin was an absolute wreck. It was the worst it had ever been in my entire life. And I made like an appointment with like a carnivore coach or whatever. And she said, oh, you're just oxalate dumping. Like it's going to pass, like keep going. And I was like, I've been doing this for 10 months. And at that point I was like 22 years old. Like I shouldn't be that toxic. Like I shouldn't be oxalate dumping for that long.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I need to be done with carnivore. And then when I tried to eat carbs again, I would flare up. So I couldn't tolerate carbs anymore. I couldn't even eat blueberries anymore. And those were like my favorite fruits. I was so lost. And and that's actually when I was about to give up on everything. And then that's actually when I found like low vitamin A, and I was like, oh my gosh, like nothing has ever made more sense. It was like the missing piece of the puzzle. Like I knew no matter like what diet I tried, there was something that we were all missing. And it was always like the low vitamin A, and it was copper too for me. And I was just like dumbfounded by it, because I reflected on my whole, like it was like 5 years of nutrition, like trying these diets to finally find this answer. And every single diet I tried was high vitamin A and high copper. So now here I am, like everything makes sense. And that's why I was like binge watching all of your shows. And I immediately like cold turkey went low vitamin A, and it definitely, here I am like over 2 years later still on it. So yeah, that's what led me to low vitamin A.
Awesome. So the keratosis pilaris, how's that doing? Well, let's hit on the things that you were dealing with before.
Yeah, so that has improved, like I would say like 99%. Like my skin is very, like it's glowing and super soft. And it's the best that it's been since I was like 5 years old. So
Okay. Awesome.
yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Well, so I actually, the keratosis pilaris thing is a funny story because I had it myself. And when I got into the low vitamin A thing, we're like 7 years deep now. I remember at the start, people going, well, I have keratosis pilaris and everything says it's a vitamin A deficiency.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't, at the start I started going, okay, it seems like everything they say is a vitamin A deficiency is a vitamin A excess.
Yeah.
And over time, I didn't even worry about, my keratosis pilaris was very minor, just little bumps. And then over time, it just went away. Like all of a sudden one day I look at my back to my arms and it's gone. And I went,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so yeah, it must be right. It must be a vitamin A toxicity condition. And
Yeah.
they just misinterpret it every single time as a deficiency. So yeah. So then, okay. So, well, let's get into, I wanted to see what the next question is. Okay. So you kind of went over what your eating was like before you started low vitamin A. You did the veganism. You did the high vitamin A kind of Weston Price. When you did carnivore, were you doing like all muscle meat, or were you doing like nose to tail?
I did multiple variations of it. Towards the end, I was trying to do just all muscle meat, but I couldn't stick to it.
Yeah.
It was so boring. But I started out doing like tons of eggs. So I was eating tons of eggs. I was eating bacon, like a lot of fat and the beef. So yeah.
One thing I've just found is women in general with lots of fat, they just don't, over time, they just really don't do well.
No.
So they just don't make women don't make as much bile as guys, so they're not going to tolerate fat as well. And then you throw in all the vitamin A and stuff, and you just got a disaster. So, okay, so we hit on those.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so considering the diet, well, actually, let's hit on real quick. I know we're going to get into your boys, but the PCOS issue, how is that doing these days?
Yeah, so now my period is like always right on the dot every month and very painless. It couldn't be more regular. So yeah, I did have cysts on my ovaries. I did have a cyst on my ovary during my first pregnancy, and then during my second pregnancy there was no cysts. So I have no cysts anymore.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, this kind of goes along with the idea that we put out in Toxic Bile Paradigm of like cysts and tumors and fibroids and all these, the lumps and bumps, as we call them. They're all just like toxin storage of some sort. And as we clear out the toxins, these things don't need to be around anymore, and the body can clean them out and get rid of it. It'd be like if you cleaned out a storage unit and you don't have to pay the rent on it anymore. It's just gone. So that's amazing. So that's awesome. That's what we're after. One of the things that that Grant's blog post was about is we don't have enough testimonials out in the world about the wonders of this approach. And so one of the reasons why I'm going to have more people on the show like yourself is so we can spread the word more and show people that this really works. So let's get into the next one. So the last diet, but you were saying you went like love your liver, low vitamin A, like cold turkey. So what were the biggest changes from your diet before you jumped on low vitamin A to what you changed to eating on low vitamin A, just in the beginning? I mean, you can add on later on, but think of that big shift. What was the big shift for you?
So I also want to add that like when I did go like low vitamin A, I also started the keystone minerals and lactoferrin. So I was like really scared to try carbs again because I knew that I reacted to them before. So I first just went with the lean meat. And I slowly started incorporating some blueberries because that's what I wanted really bad, blueberries. And as I started taking keystone minerals and the lactoferrin, I was able to start eating blueberries again with like no reaction. So I was still eating a lot of beef, but I just started incorporating some like low vitamin A fruits. And then I started incorporating oatmeal. And then I was terrified to try bread, like gluten, because I used to be very gluten sensitive. And so I waited for a long time, probably like almost a year to even try gluten. And I had no reaction at all. And I eat gluten every single day now with no problem. So yeah.
That's amazing. So you're another person. We have our celiac live stream episode, Joe. I don't know if you want to find that link, but the link about celiac. So we have your gluten intolerance or whatever it was resolving.
Yeah.
We have we very often have people who are carnivore or very, very keto or very, very low carb come to us who don't tolerate carbs. Like the people have to realize that if you used to tolerate carbs as a little kid, and then all of a sudden now as an adult, you don't, like, it's very likely that your chosen diet broke your ability to tolerate carbs. And it's probably by starving your gut biome of what these things do, that, you know, these good bacteria that help break these things down for you. And when you starve your gut biome with no carbs and no fiber, you can lose that ability. And we have now I can't say in your case, Olivia, like if the keystone minerals and the lactoferrin, you know, you kind of jumped in full with, okay, so you just jumped in with like one pill of lactoferrin and one pill of keystone minerals, right?
I eased into the lactoferrin.
Oh,
I did break it and do like a quarter at a time, but the keystone minerals I did just go all in with those.
Okay. Well, yeah. So folks, I just want to remind you, you can always jump in. You know, remember if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough kind of saying. So if you jump in with one keystone minerals and it's more than your body tolerates or wants, you may not feel good. And then we need to do less. Same thing with the lactoferrin. Olivia's, you know, there's the instructions that I print on, or that I post on the product page and on the label of how to start slow, so you don't kick your own butt, because these things are very potent. It doesn't, if you react to them, it doesn't mean they're bad for you. It just means it'd be like if you go in the gym and you lift twice as much weight as you're supposed to and you hurt yourself. It's not that the weight is bad. It's that you can do things too quickly. So these things can do amazing things, like keystone minerals, the kind of basic ones we look at, zinc, selenium, and molybdenum. And lactoferrin really helps, but these can be too strong for people. So I'm glad that Olivia tolerated them and that they really helped her quickly. And I just want to remind you guys that one of the things we do here and allow for people to do is to adjust these things to their tolerance, to their toxicity. Often as people are more toxic in the beginning, they have stronger reactions to these things that help them detox. Just like if somebody was really, you know, deconditioned, let's say they'd been in a hospital bed because they got in a car accident for 6 months and their muscles are weak and not working. You don't send them into the gym to start squatting and deadlifting like heavy weights right away. They have to break their way back into it. So I just wanted to point that out, that Olivia did, you know, she may have jumped on the keystone minerals a little fast, but she listened to her body. And I do totally believe that if you did too much for you, you would have known what to do, and that would be back off.
Yeah. Right.
Or even take a break. So that's great. You're doing everything right. And so we got your carb tolerance back. We got your gluten tolerance back.
Yes.
Yeah. So and with this, the PCOS cyst is now gone. The keratosis pilaris is now gone. Your skin's doing great. So that's amazing. So let's get into, we kind of went over that next question, the biggest changes you made when implementing the low vitamin A diet. So then how are you feeling these days overall compared to, you know, other symptoms, fatigue and brain fog and all that stuff? Let's go over those today versus how, let's say, at your worst.
Okay. So I'll start with at my worst. I was like bedridden when I was like 20 years old. Like just like I was in college, and like just getting out of bed to go to a class took all of my energy, and then I'd be back in bed and I would be sleeping 12, 13 hours while I was in college, which is really sad when I look back on it. And my brain was just such in a fog. Like I couldn't think straight. My words like would come out jumbled sometimes. Like I couldn't put my thoughts into words, and it was kind of scary at times. Like I would almost feel like I was drunk sometimes, even though I was obviously not. And fast forward to now, I am like very clear-minded. I'm very good at having conversations with people, and my anxiety is like absolutely gone. It used to be debilitating. Like I used to have panic attacks every single day, and sometimes they were so bad that I would like vomit from them. And now I have like pretty much no anxiety. I mean, some things can trigger my anxiety, but on a day-to-day basis, I have like little to no anxiety. And I'm full of energy despite having 2 little boys. And I haven't slept good in 3 years because I breastfeed, and my younger one is still breastfeeding through the night. So it's been 3 years since I've slept through the night without being woken up. And still I'm functioning like very well every day. So it's like so crazy the difference, because like I would never imagine that I could balance all of these things that I'm doing in my life with like work and being a student and a mom and I'm like not struggling at all. Like it's stressful, sure, but like I can handle it and I feel good every day. Um and I could barely even go to class, like for one class before. So um when I was younger at 20 years old. So yeah, definitely a huge difference. And I think my physical appearance has had a really huge transformation as well. I used to have a very like puffy face. Like a lot of people with PCOS have that. It's just a lot of like inflammation in the face. My eyes were always very puffy and swollen, especially in the morning when I'd wake up. I always had like a double chin, even though I was skinny. Like I've always been skinny my whole life, but my face has always been like puffy and like I looked fat in my face. So if I was wearing like a big sweatshirt and you couldn't see that I was skinny, you would probably think I was a little overweight just by looking at my face. And now I have like no puffiness in my face. My skin is glowing and I'm feeling cute these days.
Well, that's amazing. I remember the days of the kids nursing, and I actually had to be the nighttime guy to wake up and give them pumped milk because it was too rough on my ex-wife at the time for her to wake up.
Yeah.
So I had to say, I'll do it. I'll take care of it.
Wow.
And I handled it. But now I know that if I had to do that again at almost 50, I'm going, I could do kids again. Like so I wanted to say the cool thing is that like, when you were in college and struggling, I mean, you're still fairly, young overall. And what we see is people saying that like you're saying they had no resilience before. Like we've had people who say they were basically disabled and bedbound.
Yeah, that was definitely me. Yeah.
And as they're getting older, now we have them not doing that. So it's kind of funny, like, and we don't claim to do that. People just do this stuff and then their bodies fix themselves, which is really what we're all after. So that's amazing. Actually, so the next question, so We Do Not Consent posted a question that fits into our next question perfectly. It was, what does a day of eating look like for you now? Or the question I had was, what are your meals these days? So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So for breakfast, I eat breakfast with my little boys every day. So, a typical breakfast for us would be like chicken sausage, and we really like putting maple syrup on it. That's like their favorite. And typically some blueberries, strawberries, something like that, banana. Sometimes we have oatmeal, but they don't love oatmeal. So I like oatmeal, but and then and maybe like once a month we'll do like sourdough French toast. There is like a little bit of egg in the batter, but they I have toddlers and they want French toast sometimes. So, and then we still do a lot of like steaks, chicken with rice, noodles. We love noodles. My sons love noodles. Lots of like sourdough. My grandmother makes sourdough. She taught me how to make sourdough. So we do that. Yeah, a lot of meat. We're very meat heavy. So, and I do better when I eat a lot of meat. I notice that. And my boys, like, they love meat too. So yeah, very, very simple eating. We do a lot of like crock pot meals of like stew meat, and like we'll put beans in there, even white carrots, things like that. So we like to throw a bunch of things into a crock pot and eat that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. The one pan or the one pot meals, I've always been a huge fan of those. Like the multi-dish things. Like I was the cook and the dishwasher. for a long period. So figuring out how to minimize dishes while maximizing, the enjoyment of a meal was huge.
Oh yeah.
So that's great that you do the sourdough. Where Kelsey and I are going to
Mhm.
work on figuring out how we can make it so she can do that more. But she's got
Yeah.
kids and she's busy too. So let's go into so now we get into your pregnancies and your labors and your deliveries between your two boys and the difference in your diets between
Yes.
the two of them.
Awesome. Yeah, this is honestly like my favorite thing to share because I think it's so cool, first of all, and also like babies are like my like whole thing. Like I love babies and I feel like they need to be protected at this point. Like everyone is after babies and they're attacking our
Mhm.
children. Especially Weston A. Price Foundation. They're giving very dangerous advice to pregnant women to consume cod liver oil and beef liver on a daily basis while you're pregnant. And that's what I did with my first son, he's a little over 3 years old now. So when I was pregnant with him, I started the cod liver oil again just because I felt very pressured by like the mom groups that are like Weston A. Price based. And I remember like being so scared to do it because of how it made me jaundice before. So obviously that's scary to try again.
Don't touch the
And
hot stove again, right?
yeah. And I remember like knowing that even at that point, because it's so well established, like too much vitamin A is going to cause birth defects. Like that is well established. And I remember bringing that point up and being like, oh, well, if it's food sourced, it's not going to do that. And it didn't make any sense to me. Like I was just like, that makes absolutely no sense, but okay. And I was also taking a prenatal that had vitamin A and copper and iron in it. So I was like doing all the things and eating a lot of like shellfish. I don't know why, but that's like what I wanted when I was pregnant with him. And I was so sick that whole pregnancy. Like before I knew I didn't know I was pregnant at first and I thought I was like dying. Like I went to the doctor and I was like, there's something so wrong with me because I was so sick and I was sleeping like 15 hours a day. I literally thought I was dying and I was throwing up and I couldn't eat anything. And the doctors just told me like you're fine. And then I found out later that I was pregnant and I was glad I wasn't dying, but but so then that's when I like went all in with the nutrition and thought I was doing the right thing by eating all these superfoods and the beef liver and the raw milk, even though I felt horrible. I just thought I was doing what was best for my unborn child. And it was honestly the like no one could have prepared me for that pregnancy. I was so sick the whole time and I had heartburn the whole time. It was horrible. And then I was so set on having an unmedicated birth. And I went into my labor like knowing I was going to refuse epidural, like I was going to fight through the pain. And I ended up being in labor for like 30 hours and all unmedicated. And the contractions were like so severe and they were back to back. They were about like 2 minutes apart. And they were like excruciating, like so painful. I couldn't breathe through them. And I just kept pushing through as long as I could. And I wasn't progressing. Like like there was no progress in my labor at all. I was stalling. I was just completely stalled. And I ended up begging for the epidural because I hadn't slept in 30 hours and I was just in so much pain. And I was very upset with myself because I wanted that really bad to have that unmedicated birth, but my body couldn't go anymore. So anyways, I got the epidural and I delivered my baby, and he was born very jaundiced. And they told me, like, if you're going to breastfeed him, the jaundice will probably get worse, which I was like, that,
Oh,
yeah, I was like, that's so weird and doesn't make any sense. But now it does make sense looking back on it. And so as I breastfed him, his jaundice got so much worse. He was so yellow, like his eyes were bright yellow. It was scary, very scary to see him like that. And they were like, we're going to have to do something very soon because he's going to have brain damage. Like his bilirubin is so high. And I was terrified. And I kept taking him out in the sun because the sun's supposed to help clear out the bilirubin. And of course, I didn't do the vitamin D drops because that felt so wrong to give a baby vitamin D drops. So anyways, yeah, I just kept taking him out in the sun, and thank God his bilirubin went back down. But I will say this too, my colostrum was very bright yellow for like 5 days, probably almost a week. And then once it turned into just regular milk, that's also when his jaundice went away too. So yeah. And then with my next son, I started low vitamin A not too soon before I got pregnant with him. Actually, I wish I could have done things differently, but like I wish I would have done low vitamin A longer. But honestly, he was kind of like a oopsie too.
Yeah.
So
well, as you do low vitamin A, you get more fertile. So, you know, that's good and bad.
yeah, like we wanted a baby, but we weren't like actively trying. But when I got pregnant with him, I was like, wow, that was very easy to get pregnant. And then so I was low vitamin A that whole time. I didn't take any prenatals with him either. I did take keystone minerals and lactoferrin that entire pregnancy, and I felt perfectly fine that whole pregnancy. No nausea, no fatigue really at all. I also had a toddler I was watching, and I had tons of energy. I felt great, no acid reflux at all. And I was very scared to go into labor because I had the PTSD from the first time. But I was like, I'm going to try so hard to do unmedicated this time. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night having contractions, and they were very mild. Also, it was exactly on my due date, which was kind of crazy because my first son, he was 2 weeks past my due date. So I don't know if that has something to do with this too, but anyways, I went into labor exactly on my due date, and I woke up with contractions. They were very mild. Like I thought they were like Braxton Hicks, which like aren't true contractions. But I couldn't fall back to sleep. So they were painful enough that I couldn't sleep through them, but they weren't painful enough for me to think I was in active labor. And they started to get closer together. And so I was like, maybe this is labor. I don't really know. It's completely different than the first time around. And so I just kept, pushing through the contractions, and I started watching Netflix. Actually, I was just like, just gonna start watching a show because like I can't sleep. So I was just watching a show while I was in labor, and I didn't even like wake my husband was asleep. I was like, I'm not even gonna wake him because like I don't even know if this is labor or not. And then eventually I woke him up in the morning, and I was like, hey, I think I'm in labor. Like, I'm not sure, but, and he was like, okay. So we just were like hanging out, watching shows, and the contractions started getting closer together, but I was breathing through each of them, and like, they were so mild. And I remember saying like, hey, like maybe we should go to the hospital because like my contractions are like 3 minutes apart. and like and my husband was like, no, let's just watch one more episode of our show. And I was like, okay. And then so we were like, we're just watching our show. And then I was like, okay, I really think we need to go. And he's like, okay, like whatever. So we get in the car. And when I'm in the car, my contractions turn up to 100. Like it's like they're like back to back and they're very intense now. And then as soon as we get to the hospital and I open the door to go in the hospital, I feel my water break everywhere. and I knew he was coming any second. Like my body was telling me he is coming like right now. And the staff like pulls up a wheelchair for me, and I was like, I cannot sit down. Like a baby is about to come right now. And they were like, no, you need to sit down. Like we need to get you like to a room. And I was like, there's absolutely no way I can sit right now. And then I didn't even have to do any physical pushing. Like my body just like pushed for me, and this baby was born in the lobby of the hospital. He was like, his head was like in my pants, and I was like, okay, there's a baby in my pants. And I was like trying to like pull my pants down so I could get my baby, and they were
Right.
like, don't pull your pants down. And I was like, well, I need to get my baby. So then this team of like nurses like surrounded me, and then I was able to like get my baby. And but
Did they charge you for this non-delivery of their or something? they didn't do much work.
They did charge me, yes. And I wish I turned around and left after that, but that it is what it is. Now I know for the next time that I can do it at home. But yeah. So anyways, he had like his bilirubin was very low, no jaundice at all, like not even close to having any jaundice. And he was absolutely like thriving, like perfect baby. And my colostrum was like very pale yellow, completely different color than the first time. So I do think like my colostrum had a very low vitamin A content compared to the first time around. And yeah, this baby, he was like, he was back to his birth weight within 24 hours of giving birth. He was very alert, he was just thriving, very different from the first time. And I was over the moon with how easy my labor was. So yeah, that was a long story, but
no, that's amazing. So I mean, let me just hit on what we see in women who do this. First of all, like you said, you wish you were doing the like the love your liver, low vitamin A stuff longer before you got pregnant. And it's a normal recommendation, folks, that I tell people. They say, can I start low vitamin A when I'm trying to get pregnant? Can I start it while I'm pregnant? You can always start eating lower vitamin A foods or less vitamin A foods. But I generally tell people, like, think of it as this way. It's usually going to be your strongest detoxes during the first 6 months.
right.
And it's that detox of vitamin A that can affect the fetus and make your pregnancy more suffering than it has to be. So generally I give people like do 6 months of low vitamin A, get out of the way the first big detox dumping stuff before you try to get pregnant. Now, as we're saying here, like we have ladies who are not trying to get pregnant, and they get pregnant once they're doing low vitamin A because they become, as the term we love, dangerously fertile. Like you guys are going to become dangerously fertile. Ladies are going to become dangerously fertile. Like we had that 40-year-old woman who made a mistake once in their birth control efforts, and she was pregnant. And she came back to me and she said, you told me, and we just messed up once. And there you go. So this is really for those of you who want to fight the fertility crisis that is happening. This is what we do. And then, okay, so you mentioned about the colostrum. So one of the things I have on Twitter in my pinned thread of threads on my profile is we actually have pictures of women's breast milk when they were normal, when they were healthy or not sick, I'll put it that way. When they're nursing, they're not sick, and then they got the coof. And you can see that the color of their breast milk went from like breast milk when it's frozen tends to have a more yellowish tint. Well, it was light yellow, and then it went to like yellow. So like this is what we talk about: the flu, the coof, all of this is a dumping of vitamin A into the bloodstream. And it's the bile leaking into the bloodstream causing people to be sick. So we've had this story before. So it's great that you're saying it again. We've had mothers who are not low vitamin A with jaundiced kids. And then as they go low vitamin A, they don't have jaundiced kids. So, the low vitamin A stuff is and then your colostrum changed color from being quite yellow to pale yellow. And then your second son does a lot better now. So would you say, so now that we've kind of covered that stuff, and then your second pregnancy and delivery and all that stuff was so much easier. We've seen this multiple times before where some of the changes we know, easier delivery on kids who are, when the mom is on the low vitamin A diet. We had a mom who every child of hers, I forget if it was a cleft lip or a cleft palate, or sorry, there's tongue ties, lip ties, cleft palate, cleft lip. We've had mothers say that their kids before this had those things. And then they didn't once they were doing the love your liver type stuff. And then there's just the like I said, the jaundice. Actually, Kelsey had that with her kids as she was fixing things where they weren't jaundiced anymore. So yeah, it's all very interesting. And then just labor and delivery is so much easier where, I've seen that multiple times before. So that's amazing. So now, one of your first boy was born jaundiced, and then the second boy did a lot better. So now let's talk about how are your sons doing these days on the diet you're giving them?
Yeah. So my older son, I did feed him a very Weston A. Price diet for the first, year of his life. Well, he was breastfeeding for 6 months, and then once he was 6 months, I started giving him cod liver oil and beef liver. And looking back, I feel horrible for doing that, but I didn't know, obviously. And so he was still doing well. I do a lot of things the pokies, as you call them. And my whole lifestyle is very low toxic, except for my diet at that time. So he was still doing very well, but he had my skin condition too. And then I did move him to a low vitamin A diet, and his skin has been very clear. I do use a little bit of homeopathy for him sometimes, and that might also have helped with his skin, but his skin is perfect now. My 1-year-old now, he's been low vitamin A his whole life. So even during the womb. So he is absolutely brilliant. Both of them are brilliant. Everybody always comments on how smart they are. They're both very articulate, and I don't know, they're built different. And my whole family calls them super babies because they're just so I just feel like they're so different from other kids. When I take them to hang out with other kids, and I definitely can tell that they're very focused, and they're very task oriented. They don't have ADHD or anything like that. So they're both absolutely thriving. My younger one never had any skin problems, by the way, too. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I just want to add, since you brought up homeopathy a couple of times, and I think we probably have similar stance on it. Homeopathy deserves a seat at the table. It absolutely does. It absolutely has its place. The problem that I saw in like naturopathic medical school and in other places is there's people who think homeopathy is like the entire table.
Right.
And I'm going, this was a story I tell about naturopathic medical school where I talked to my homeopathy clinic professor and I said, so what happens if somebody has a nutrient deficiency, like a true nutrient deficiency, like scurvy back then was what I brought up. And I said they would have very distinct, very specific symptoms. So you could very well give them a homeopathic remedy based on their symptom presentation. I said, what would it do when the cause is a nutrient deficiency and they have a very specific symptom presentation? He said it would probably help them for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then the problems would all come back. And I went, why aren't we fixing nutrition first then? Like, why are, if we have to be built of these things, and yes, we are energetic beings and all this stuff, and we can tweak that with homeopathy, but shouldn't nutrition be first was my thing. But I mean, I do, as you know, I use homeopathic detox therapy. We make it available to people in the Love Your Liver program. Mm-hmm. It absolutely has a place. And when it works, it's amazing. And people are just boggled. They're like, how did that just go away like that? And I go, I don't know. But when it works, it works. The problem is, like, as an example of the homeopathic mindset that I came across was my colleagues in naturopathic medical school would go and they would eat like fast food for lunch. This is literally true. They would go and they'd eat fast food for lunch. They'd eat Burger King. Mm-hmm. And then they'd come back to clinic after that and they didn't feel good and they would just be popping homeopathic remedies. And I'm like, this is no way to live. Like, I'm like, do you guys miss the whole thing about all the other things in school, like nutrition? Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to cover on that because actually somebody brought that up on Twitter the other day, and it absolutely has a place at the table. And the great thing is it doesn't cause problems. Mm-hmm. So if you pick the wrong remedy, or you go see somebody, like, you don't, how much money do we all spend on conventional medicine that then gives us side effects and post-surgical problems and all this stuff, when a homeopathic remedy, the worst thing that might happen is you spend some money on it and nothing happens. Like, at least you're not damaged. So it's always kind of like the whole thing of medicine is first do no harm, right? So what's wrong with trying a remedy? Yeah, it might cost you a little money. If it doesn't work, first do no harm. That's what we've done. We haven't caused any harm. So I absolutely. So that's great. Okay. Can you share any tips on how you've made the whole low vitamin A, Love Your Liver style nutrition work for you and your family that you haven't already kind of covered?
Yeah, I mean, my 1-year-old will pretty much eat anything that I put in front of him. My 3-year-old is kind of like that too. He actually he actually likes very bland food. So he doesn't like spicy. So it actually is pretty easy to make them eat low vitamin A. And typically what I do is I find recipes that look good and then I just change them a little bit to be low vitamin A. And it's not that hard to like swap out a few things or just don't use tomato sauce or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, crock pot meals are definitely a very easy way to eat low vitamin A. And just like having a few snacks like that are low vitamin A on hand is really helpful too. So yeah, I feel like it's hard to give advice when I'm mostly attending to toddlers.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, you're following, well, actually what we see is as kids get less toxic in certain ways, I think when kids are really, really picky, they're often really toxic. Mm-hmm. And they're trying, they're either there's one of two ways they can go. They can either become really addicted to things that are bad for them. Mm-hmm. Like sugar, like kids who are obsessed with sugar, like that's not a natural thing. Or they're really toxic and then they try to purposely avoid things that their body tells them are not good for them. So we have to kind of know the framework to know where the kid is going. Like, but one of the things I want to say out there is like you were saying, your kids really like meat. Mm-hmm. And for a while, like, I have my own, my son is like 14 and he's getting into weight training now and all this stuff. And before I was kind of going, he just like a lot of nights, he'd just eat meat and he was totally fine with it. And I kind of started going, okay, well, and what we're seeing with kids is as they're growing up, you know, as kids grow up, they like more foods, they try more foods. There's the social pressure, and hopefully they become less toxic as their liver grows. But we just see, you know, they start to expand. And even as a concerned dad, I just kind of went, let him eat it. He'll grow out of it. And he is. And it's really kind of cool to see. So yeah, just be aware, folks, that the pickiness can be like an addiction kind of thing, or it can be a protective mechanism. And like kids who eat lots of noodles, for example, like that's low vitamin A. That's generally grains that are going to be very low vitamin A, and they're avoiding things that aren't good for them. So that's just kind of want to think about it in those ways. It's difficult being a parent. It's never easy being a parent and doing the right things for your kids. So, okay. So, well, we're kind of getting close to wrapping it up. So is there anything else, any topic about, you know, this general area of stuff that you want to add?
Trying to think. I mean, I will say I did start doing like the zeolite that you recommend, the like mega dosing it, and that I have noticed like my digestion has gotten a lot better, like very regular. I always tended to be like more on like the constipated side, and that completely helped that. So there's that. I also do niacin too, like twice a week. And I do that before sauna session. That's like the only time I really use niacin, but I feel afterwards, I feel like absolutely amazing, like euphoric almost. So I absolutely love niacin, and I feel like niacin also helped with my skin a lot too, because I feel like my skin got to a certain point and then it kind of was a little stagnant, and then once I started doing niacin, that kind of cleared things up even more. And now I actually do use it topically with the recipe that I think Kelsey made, like the spray. So I use that topically too, and I use that like almost every day, and my skin does fine with it, and it makes my skin really soft. So yeah.
Awesome. So did you, on the zeolite, did you go up to like the 6 scoop early recommendation, or are you doing what? How much of that are you doing?
I started with, I think, 10 grams, something like that.
So that's like 2 scoops. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I am only like 110 pounds, so I felt
right.
Well,
yeah. No. Let me cover some stuff on that. We do have the whole zeolite live stream, but for those of you who want to know what we're talking about the zeolite dosing paradox, where if people take too little at the start, they could dump too much toxicity into their system and not feel good. So the way to fix that is actually have enough zeolite in the system to soak up what might get stirred up. So that's it. And then over time, the way that we know it's working is over time, you ramp the amount down so that, because you don't have as much toxicity in your system anymore, it doesn't get stirred up because it's not there. And then you can bring your dose down. So that's why I consider it okay to do this kind of higher dosing at the start, because it doesn't stay there forever. You can bring it down over time. So there's that. And then as Olivia was saying, zeolite compared to charcoal, zeolite for most people, not everybody, but zeolite for most people tends to move your bowels better. It tends to help people poop, and it may even make you a little loose at the start. Whereas charcoal tends to definitely be more constipating for most people. Some people, it helps them poop better. You never know. So anyway, just know that with these binders that we use, the zeolite tends to help people poop. The charcoal tends to constipate people. So first of all, if you have bowel issues that lean either way, go towards one of those to help get it more normalized. And can you use them both at the same time? Yes, absolutely. I currently use 1 scoop of zeolite, 5 grams, and a whole tablespoon of charcoal once a day. I take those together. That's way too much charcoal for a lot of people. I tend to, my bowels move really well. So I don't tend to, too much zeolite at the start definitely had me moving too fast. So that's the zeolite. Joe put the zeolite up on the screen, zeolite with a Y, because there's electrolyte minerals in it. And there's a whole episode on that, and Joe linked that too. So then what else you were talking about? Oh, the flesh niacin. Yeah, I wanted to emphasize, you mentioned, you said niacin. I want to make it clear for people. We're talking about flesh niacin, or nicotinic acid specifically. And you're saying you're using it internally, it helped your skin. And then externally, Kelsey has her Nia spray, I think she calls it, the recipes in the Love Your Liver program. And I wanted to make a comment on something about that, because vitamin A toxicity tends to cause skin problems. And when Kelsey first learned about this work, when she was watching and reading the testimonials and stuff that we were talking about, she was big on flesh niacin deficiency, like people being deficient in niacin. And she saw our work and she said to herself, they're fixing niacin deficiency. What that work is doing is fixing niacin deficiency. And then as I saw what Kelsey was promoting niacin as helping with, I'm like, those are vitamin A toxicity symptoms. And so we both kind of came to it, and we both joke about it. I sometimes, whenever Kelsey brings up a new condition to me, I go, oh, that's probably just pellagra, which is niacin deficiency. And so we kind of we rib each other a little bit about that, but they both help. I mean, one of the biggest symptoms of niacin deficiency in pellagra is dermatitis, so inflammation of the skin. Yeah. So getting enough of that, vitamin A toxicity, vitamin A requires NAD to detox. Flesh niacin is the NAD gasoline, the best one you can give your body. So this makes sense as to why doing the two can help. And then you got really quite far with low vitamin A. Yeah. And then you added some flesh niacin to it, and you kind of just put the cherry on top and resolved these things. So this is why, folks, the two major things that we try to do is we try to fix toxicity and fix deficiencies. That's what Olivia just did. And that's, so you can still be lacking in one or the other. And when she addressed both of them, then it fixed your stuff. So actually somebody had a question. How are you still breastfeeding? Are you still nursing?
I am, yes.
Do you have a plan for how long, or are you just going to let it kind of?
I plan on doing 1.5 years, but he's 1.5 years next week, and I don't feel like he is ready to be done. So we'll probably go for 2 years.
Yeah. I think that's what I recall we did too. Okay. And I wanted to add, when you felt bad about giving your boy like the was it the liver and the eggs? Were you doing that?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely blame myself for my son's anaphylactic allergy to tree nuts, because we were, I was the chef around the house, and I was back then doing I was roasting like sweet potatoes and carrots in butter as the vegetables to go with dinner. And, she was on multivitamin, like a food-based multivitamin back then. And then, so that was while she was nursing. And then when my boy was weaning from nursing, I would buy goat milk, which is way higher in vitamin A than cow milk. And my boy was drinking. I mean, so we're talking about a 1.5 to 2 year old. In a week, he was drinking 1 gallon of goat milk. Yeah. So, I mean, that was $14 a gallon back then. That was a lot. So anyway, we're still fixing it. And now he's I wanted to make one more comment on your kids, as you mentioned, being built different. I would say this a little differently, which I understand what you mean, because I know you're at the age where you probably have mom friends, and there's other kids that you're doing activities with and stuff like that, and the kids who, let's say, have been poked, or who came from really toxic moms, you look in their eyes and there's something missing. Exactly. Something's not there, and they'll give you these open mouth stares, and you're it's sad, because you're where are you? Exactly. Yeah. So I see that with other kids, and my kids are having trouble. My kids are high school age, and they're having trouble getting along with other kids their age, because
Yes, that's actually my 3-year-old. He hangs out with like 8 and 9-year-olds
Mhm.
because he has like real in-depth conversations with people. And then 3-year-olds his age, like he tries to talk to them and they like don't even like know how to respond to him. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, my boy's in a youth group, and so he's freshman age in high school, and there's seniors in this youth group, and all the seniors are like, "You're gonna lead this whole thing." They're already like priming him to be the president of the whole youth group as a freshman.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool, and so it's folks, just the only thing I'm gonna say is I will never get another poke, and I will prevent my children from ever getting poked. As the saying goes, over my dead body. If it comes to that, we will play that game. But yeah, take care of your kids. And I wanted to point out one more thing that Olivia said about some of the people out there, there are people out there who will insist, especially the raw food folks, raw carnivore folks, for whatever you want to call it. And they will say that raw vitamin A in animal foods doesn't cause problems. Well, here we have Olivia saying she would drink raw milk and get migraines.
Yeah.
And then these raw vitamin A lovers will try to say, oh, that's a detox.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, this boggles my mind that we know that the vitamin A supplements cause the same symptom, and vitamin A in raw milk causes the same symptom as headaches are one of the most classic symptoms of vitamin A toxicity, also of copper toxicity. And you had both.
Yeah.
The story you gave about the cod liver oil turning your fingers and your hands yellow, that's insane. Like you said, that was within 3 days.
It was in just a few days. Yes, it was so crazy. That means I was like very toxic at that point already.
Yeah, you just kind of tipped over the like waterfall, and then it all just came out. Like there was no place for it to go. Your body just said, "Okay, we're dumping it in the skin." So were you doing the fermented stuff?
I was doing fermented at that time. Yes. Yeah. I know.
You choke that stuff down. That's oof.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Man.
it's disgusting.
Okay, well, so I think that's all the questions I have. So, Olivia, where can people find out more information about you on the internets?
Yeah, so I mean, I am currently leaving my nutrition counseling position, so I'm kind of like in the middle of figuring out my next plan. But right now, Twitter, Instagram at Let's Live Healthy without the E. And I am working towards launching a course. I have a friend who we're working together to launch a gut health course. So that is going to be coming soon. And after that, I'm going to be making a course on nutrition during pregnancy and preparing for an unmedicated birth. So I'm really excited to make that course. So everything I'll be announcing on Instagram. I'm more focused towards Instagram, but I do use Twitter here and there. So
awesome. Well, that's where I found out about you, was on Twitter.
Okay.
So yeah, we started chatting after I forget what started it, but anyway, we started chatting on Twitter because that's where I think I first learned about you. And for those of you in the Love Your Liver program, I'll make a note, a little post in the Love Your Liver program. So if you want to ask Olivia questions, so you can contact her, you can DM her through the network. So that'll be inside of there. But if you want to ask Olivia questions, you now know her Twitter and you know her Instagram. So I think that's everything for today. So thank you so much, Olivia, for coming and sharing your testimonials and anecdotes and your experience and helping everybody to see it. Actually, one more question. Have you started the MSG yet?
Yeah, I purchased it and I put it in like a salt shaker. I don't use it every day. I sometimes just completely forget to use it, but I do plan on using it more regularly. Yeah. Okay, so I can't really attest to like how that's made me feel yet. So
and I'll just hit one question that was asked about it. So somebody asked about vitamin K. Is it an everyday thing, or is it like a 1 to 2 times a week kind of thing? First of all, I would say if vitamin K can be helpful for people, and some people don't need it. There's a very rare person who will actually have a negative response to vitamin K. Like, and these people usually notice it at, like, their sleep gets worse. Maybe their teeth even ache. It's a very strange response to vitamin K, but it happens. It happens. So just be aware. If you ever take vitamin K and you don't feel good, stop taking it. It's very simple. But most people benefit from vitamin K. Does everybody have to take it? No. If you have bleeding, like excessive bleeding, or you have like bruising or sensitive teeth, or you have high calcium on a hair test, or you just, you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, you probably want to get on vitamin K. But the thing I wanted to say about vitamin K, what we have seen is that, so you need glutamate to basically make vitamin K function properly. Like, glutamate is part of the enzyme that vitamin K works with. So what we found is, if you're trying vitamin K and you're not getting the response you want out of it, get more glutamate. Especially, if you want to try the MSG option, that's one way to get it. That's what I do. So anyway, I just wanted to add that about bleeding stuff, which is, as we're talking about menstruation and pregnancies and stuff like that, fixing bleeding for women can be, or reducing excessive bleeding can be, a really helpful thing. So, we'll wrap it up here then. So thanks for joining us, Olivia. Remember, she's at Let's Live Healthy, LIV, no E. So Let's Live Healthy with no E, on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again for coming. It was great to hear your stuff. It's stuff that I've seen multiple times, and it's always just great to hear another person saying that it works the way that we tell them to. So it does.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll see if there's any topics we want to have you on in the future. We'll figure it out. I got a list of guests that I'm trying to get on. So maybe we'll talk again in the future.
Yeah,
and I'll see you on the network.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.